This podcast contains adult language, descriptions of violence, sexual references, and other possibly offensive themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to this episode of Back to the Story, where friends come together to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'll be your DM, Klaus. Let's get started.
How do three paladins of separate gods?
But if you ask me what my calling would be, I'd say that of a defender of my friends. I would give my life to see them through.
I could have, but I didn't. And every day has been beautiful since.
I think I'm surrounded by good things.
A cleric on a hunt for redemption.
I need it for my friends, family, these people that I love, who have always been the answers to my prayers.
Whatever the hell you are.
I don't know if deserving has anything to do with anything.
A storyteller.
And if you ever need me ever again, let me know.
And one I haven't figured out yet.
I think that would take me a while to find someone more knowledgeable than me.
All come together. And there's not a bit of fate in that?
I think you mispronounced friends.
Well, I will drink to that.
When you see God's rest surrounded by armies, then know that his desolation has come near. Take these wings to Nymanet. Carry them home.
Episode 50. Hands glide across the grass, gilded by the warm sun. The wind dances through it as if playing a song. The vision pans up until you can see the hand connects to a youth in a white dress, marching towards a horizon lined with people. The banners wave proudly in the sun in all their colors, but the crowd hangs their heads. The vision stills, yet the girl marches on. Behind her follow 6 mounted knights, blanketed by bright tabards who march ahead of an elderly figure. Hunched and slow they walk, leaning upon a simple branched cane. Not a cloud flies in the sky as its clear blue shifts to pink, and then orange, and then red as the wizened figure reaches the hill, and as the sun dips below the horizon, the fire is lit. Remembrance of Palassar Marina. Previously, after tracking down and gathering the Arcanitech schematic and assassins, the bronze scales began to return to the surface, to Nymanet. Passing back by, they attacked and killed the sentient kelp, finding a strange amethyst-colored glass gem plant at its base. Into the viaduct, the scales met with a group of people living down below the holy city in the sewers with rats. After terrifying them with the visages of serpents, the scales pushed through the rest of the viaduct, returning to the surface once more. Back in the city of Nymanet, the scales spoke to the priest of Ayin and Severa, returning the desired items and bodies, being handsomely rewarded for their efforts. And then, after gathering supplies and a short rest, Melly contacted Braun before transporting you all beyond the veil and into the plain of Fel'Nor, abandoned by the gods. We come back to the story here. After teleporting into an embassy of sorts and giving up your weapons and arms, Braun spoke to you before leading you through the city of Set. While the city featured the dim lights of torches and glowing eyes, the shadows here seemed almost to hold sentience, pressing against them. Your dark vision is cut in half as if looking into the night sky, yet you can only see the scattered light of stars, but nothing of what moves in the void between them. Braun introduced you to a female vampiric chevelle of the will, mounted upon an undead horse. And as you spoke to her, Ezekiel spotted a violet flame distant in the sky, growing larger. This visage proved to be the umbra form of a hulking shadow dragon, wreathed in strange shadow light of purple fire. The dragon roared, announcing its presence into Set before circling above the city, and you now hear bells ringing throughout it, and a voice from above you. Looking up, in this alleyway, you see 2 sets of eyes in the darkness, just above the roof line of the building next to you. The lower set is a thin yellow ring created by large black pupils. The set above it is more humanoid in size, dimly glowing amber. The voice is hushed and raspy in a language you don't understand. The chevelle, the vampiric mounted female, responds, and there's an exchange of voices and words. A moment later, the female mounted vampire nods, whistles, and exits the alleyway, where she's then flanked by the 8 other riders as they begin to trot towards the tower in the distance in the center of the city. The figure above in the alleyway remains, those 2 sets of eyes, and there's a short exchange between them and Braun. It takes a few moments. As this is occurring, are you guys doing anything in particular, or just waiting?
I think we're all trying to be good boys and girls so we don't get murdered.
Okay. Not going to make you roll for that, but you guys just stand there, non-violently.
Roll for murder.
Roll for not murder. After a minute or 2, the set of eyes above, and there's no silhouette, it's too dark for that, but the eyes above begin to move towards you, straight down along the wall, until it's close enough at the edge of some of your dark vision, those of you who have it, we're able to see a vague silhouette, and Braun is holding a small stone that gives off some dim light, where you can kind of see just at the edge of that light a humanoid figure, apparently standing on the side of the wall with those glowing amber eyes. There's a few more words spoken in a language you don't understand, before Braun turns to the rest of you. Well, this is the Bitar of the Will. He is requesting to speak to you. I have informed you that you are here on a diplomatic mission, and he requests that he speaks to you as well. Just answer his questions. He kind of takes a few steps back to the side, leaning up against the wall, as the figure walks down the side of the wall, as if it was the floor to him, and then takes a larger step and shifts onto the ground itself. He's holding his hands behind his back, and he's wearing a long-sleeved leather shirt of some sort with a high collar that's strapped tight. A long short sword on his side, almost the length of a longsword, and he has a few javelins on his back. He motions up to you. I thought that might be the case. Officer Ferak has informed me that you are here on a diplomatic mission at the Deep Lord Embassy. They would inquire to what you hope to gain from this diplomatic mission. It is a sensitive time to have such a contact with those beyond the veil. You understand this formality?
Of course. I kind of glance at the others. Our hope here is to learn more about what it is that your people want so that we can try and find if there's some sort of peaceful resolution that could be found.
The Fel'Nor has already been exhausted. He looks towards Braun. You are aware of this, officer. This mission will end at once if that is your aim. What do you represent? Mikhail begins taking slow steps around the group to get a better look at each of you. Just kind of eyeing you up and down, seeing what you're wearing. What do you represent?
Ourselves, actually.
Under no further pretenses.
We're just looking for answers, and maybe we can find a new way. I don't know.
As the other one mentioned, if there was a peace to be brokered, who would be brokered with? Who do you speak for? Or do you come here not to speak, but to watch?
We don't speak for anyone exactly, but we do have connections that we may be able to use to try and negotiate something that would be beneficial for all of us.
He looks towards Braun with this glare before turning back to you. He pulls out something from his pocket that's a pipe and begins to stuff it with presumably tobacco or dried leaves of some sort, and lighting it up. And as you see the pipe light up, you get a better detailed visage of his face, besides just the amber glowing eyes. He's thin and lanky, tall, not nearly as tall as Ezekiel, but maybe 6'1" or 2. He has gaunt features of the face and almost is wasp-waisted with a very thin waist, disproportionate to his shoulders. He has light gray temples, and his hair is sort of a light brown, nearly blonde. It's kind of pushed back and is fairly short, cut in the back. I wrote you, Mario. What would this piece look like? What deal would you broker?
I'm not entirely sure because we're still learning more about what it is that you want and perhaps what you would be willing to accept.
I've heard words like this before. Good intentions.
From whom?
From people that would eventually become enemies of the will. I am hard-pressed to believe that you will be the rare occurrence that does not eventually line up against us. You see, I have connections too. We could speak more of this in the tower, where we could inquire to a greater extent what it is you're actually thinking. I assure you that process is out of my control and is more painful than my questions. As you can hear, and he looks over his shoulders and you can hear the bells ringing. You can hear the dragon growling and circling around the city. And you can see and hear movement. Troops, horses, the shifting of the city to adapt the presence of something very large. You see, you catch us on a momentous day, and such information is, if you were to line up against us, it would be a bit of a problem. I ask you again, who it is you represent, who it is you speak for. Maybe you speak for no one but yourself, but where do you hail? Who are your contacts? Why should I not have you dragged to the tower? Braun begins to speak up in that other language, and the man puts his hand up quickly. Looking at him, Braun quiets down and backs up. Answer the questions, please.
I feel like this is probably where Ezekiel would start to make a scene. So I'm going to say Vesper looks at Ezekiel and kind of sees that he's about to do something. And God's help me and my negative charisma modifier, I'm going to try this. We are the Bronze Scales. We come from the land of Severwind, far across the sea. And admittedly, we are servants of the gods, but we have open minds and we represent only ourselves, but we want to try and help every side of this conflict without war.
A smirk comes across his face as he kind of looks over at Braun. Give me a persuasion check. Unless you're purposely lying.
I'm not.
Can I use Portent?
Please.
You can. Have you already rolled those?
Yeah, I did last session. I haven't used them because it's the same day.
Okay.
You sure you don't want to just randomly start singing?
Please give me.
Yeah, you can use. She hasn't rolled yet, so you can use one of your portents if you want.
I'm going to give her the 18.
That's 21 then.
A moment then. And he licks his lip in this weird way, running it along the fangs on the top of his teeth, before he turns and nods to Braun, and they take a few steps away from you, and they exchange some words. A couple, maybe a minute, 2 minutes worth, before the man walks back up towards you and circles you once more, looking at each of you, at your face, getting a good look, and then moves back to the front. We will meet, not in the tower, but I will send someone to speak to you further on this matter. Braun has made a promise, and so will you, that while here, he will not attempt anything. And if we are to let you leave, you will speak nothing that would compromise our operations. Can you assure me of this?
As far as I know, we haven't learned anything yet that would compromise your operations.
If you wish to minimize your risk, I suggest you attempt not to learn anything. We will speak later on this.
That is fair.
I have a dragon to attend to. He nods towards Braun and then walks up effortlessly up the side of the building, about 2-ish floors up, and meets with that second pair of eyes larger. He gets atop it, and a moment later, you hear as the silhouette and those 2 sets of eyes lift off the building and begin flying towards the tower. You're left in the alleyway. As you look up and watch them fade into the shadows where you can no longer really see them, you do see on the tower that has some torches or lights of some sort emanating from it, dim specks of light in the umbra darkness. There's a platform, and there are sets of lights, eyes, circling around the tower. The dragon lands on this large platform, this balcony. It's maybe 15 stories up, something like that. As it lands there, and these figures continue to circle around the tower. Well, I would suggest we not press our luck. I would suggest we get back to the embassy.
That sounds like an excellent idea.
This way. Braun then begins to take you back through some of the alleyways, the back streets, through some buildings, but there's less lights off, passing by or skirting around some of those main roads. And you can see as you look down some of these alleyways into those main roads, you can see the city's in movement. You can see columns of 200 skeletons led by a white marching through the city. You can see not just sets of 9 cavalry, but multiple sets of them, 20, 30, 50 of them, trotting towards the tower and around the city. Every now and then you hear above your heads as whatever is flying above continues to circle and patrol around the city. The city's been mobilized. But over the next couple minutes, Braun leads you through and then around the large square that you passed by earlier, the 800 skeletons. There's a few more in that circle now. A bit more cavalry in addition to the skeletons. Passes you by that, and eventually making your way towards the embassy, which is apparently on the outskirts of the city. He leads you through the open gates, showing his identification to the dwarven guards there, or Umbach guards there, into the courtyard, and then through the second gate, back into the embassy. He leads you down the halls to the left, to his office once more. It's a tight fit for all of you, but you can kind of press in there, where he motions for you to close the doors, which you do. I presume you do. Tell me if you don't. Well, he would like to speak to you later. I will inquire when later is by his standards. But with what's going on, I didn't think it would be wise to press him at that moment. Unfortunately, I have no accommodations to offer you of any substance besides the cells below. I assure you that we mean no ill, but this is the only place that we would be willing to let you stay. I hope you understand this precaution.
Under what conditions would we be staying in these cells?
The dungeon itself, the entrance would be locked, but I would try to ensure that the cells themselves would not be locked. You would not be manacled unless trouble arises. Your other options would be to brave the city. Without any sort of protection, I would assure you your stay would be brief.
Ellery, is that okay?
No, but do we have a choice?
You won't be alone, and like you said, we won't be manacled. The cells should be open.
I heard the word try, not to let the cells be locked.
I am not the warden of the dungeon. I am well respected, but I am not in charge there. I would not overpromise to you.
Before we make any more decisions, and before this question leaves my mind, Braun, what were your hopes in bringing us here?
You can see that the will has reached its... They have exhausted their patience for those on the other side to come around for peaceful negotiations. From there in, there will be no more peaceful negotiations. There will be no warnings for the neutral parties or the innocents in the city. There will be preemptive strikes. There will be no hesitation. There will be no mercy, not from them. It is my hope, maybe perhaps a foolish hope, that you might be able to talk some sense into those on the other side. That some lives might be spared. I am not a naive child. Lives will be lost, but I hope that those lives lost will be armed enemies and not neutral innocents or civilians. The will not distinguish between those.
I think it's safe to say that if at least that part is inevitable, then we agree with you. Innocence should not be lost, and that a distinction should be made.
Would you be willing to attempt to have some stand aside when conflict arises?
Like lead them from the city. You just said that the will show no mercy to those who stand aside.
If they're not in their way, they won't be their first choice. If you can move them to the side away, then they will attack first the armed combatants.
If we manage... Sorry, Amson. If we manage the impossible, let's say, that we do convince the leaders on our side to parlay again, do you think we'd have a chance to try one last time?
You would have to operate effectively and before the will arrives. If they arrive to an unguarded location, they would have no reason to kill. It is possible, I suppose. Though, as you say, pulling off the impossible. I said I am not a naive child, I'm not a fool, but my foolish hope was that you might see reason from our side, that you might see the benefit in helping our side, perhaps. You might be able to accomplish the task in a manner that does not leave thousands dead. And in the process, I'm not sure of your motivations, but you would at least save innocence. If it is gold you wish, power, title, lands, that could be arranged as well.
I know that, you don't want to divulge any information that would complicate your operations and such. But I think at least we need to know some sort of time frame for us. At least to know how much time we have to talk with those of more powerful influence than us on our side.
That is a difficult question to ask, and a more difficult one to answer, without giving away too much. The timetables are being rushed, but they have been rushed for generations. The pieces are falling into place, but there are still a few pieces that have not quite been identified, their location. Sometime, perhaps. I hesitate to give you specifics, partially because I have none.
Well, I don't think we're asking for a specific date or anything that, specific.
It will depend upon the speed at which those last pieces fall into place. This could change very rapidly or could take quite some time to achieve. My Alcock's colleague might be able to give you a more intricate answer to that question. You could speak to him at some point. Are you comfortable with staying in the dungeon? It will be in the highest level, lowest security relatively. It is all I am able to offer.
I'm gonna look over at Ellery and kind of give a face of sorry, and then say, well, if that's what you can manage, but we definitely appreciate having a little bit of space to rest and protection from everything else that's out there.
He kind of leans forward a little bit. The other option, and I do not advise it, but I will offer it, is not far into the sticks beyond the embassy is an old ruin. You may lay low enough to not bring out any of the will, but there are other dangers beyond the city. And if you cause any trouble out there, well, no mercy will be shown.
I'll look over at Ellery again. Do you think we can manage that?
I think Ellery gives a very long sigh. I don't want to put the rest of you in more danger on my account.
Well, I might have something that can keep us safe, perhaps.
I think while Amson and Ellery are kind of side talking in a way, Paul's going to just kind of turn to Braun and say,
one thing I don't quite understand is what happens if we come here and we talk and we don't come to an agreement. Do we have that choice, or was there no choice all along?
As I assured you earlier, and fair question, I promised that if you did not agree or come around or see any sort of path of compromise, that you would be allowed back. But next time we should meet, there would be no talking. I promised you this. It is part of being an ambassador that I offer such terms for diplomatic conversations.
I think Ball wants to insight check him anyway. And
sure.
The idea being that now that we are here, and with things that have gone so far, if he still feels the same way, or if he's just like, yeah, just don't do shit.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and roll an insight check.
Can I do that as well?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Ooh, that's not good.
That's a 13 for Ball.
He seems like he's being straightforward. It's kind of hard to read. His face is very stoic. Even as most emotive, not many emotions shine through. He seems to be rigid and stalwart in his promises.
Ron? If we can get people on our side to listen, I have a question that might make or break what's happening. This divinity, these shards of divinity, when they're given back to the people, what do you get out of that? Is there a way we can broker peace to get you back into our world without anger in the gods?
A delicate question that I am not sure there's a forward, easy answer to. The divinity, the essence, was taken from the soul. It was part of it before. It has been generations. Few have ever seen it. Only very few have been able to attain it. There are some stores. It does not make one a god to attain it. All children created by the gods were able to hold it in them. It does grant some power, though it does not make you a demigod or anything like that. As far as angering the gods, well, they left us for a reason, and they have been uncompromising ever since, for their own reasons. Perhaps they have changed. It is not something I'm familiar with. Whether or not our actions will anger them,
I wonder if we could learn more about previous attempts at diplomacy. Perhaps we could see where those went wrong. Perhaps we could do it differently this time.
I know some of this. The first attempt was directly with the Celestials. The Mary led this. Offered to give up some of the ethos weapons and arms that they had, that he still uses. His request was denied, and the diplomatic party he was with were killed. Generations later, a second attempt was made, this time with the people, the mortals on the other side. It is debated who hit who first, but at some point in the negotiations, conflict broke out. I cannot say for sure it is your people or ours, but at some point negotiations broke down and led to bloodshed. The third time, 2 generations after that, the most recent time, used mostly communication through arcane means. This was denied. He tried to show others what really happened, and the temples of the other gods, of your gods, marked them as dissident priests, cultists, and they were pushed out or killed or arrested. In this conflict, and as the tensions in it have risen, I find it hard to believe that a fully peaceful accordance will ever be made. It is all or nothing on both sides. It is my goal to perhaps limit some of the deaths, if possible. Perhaps show some key individuals that they are on the wrong side of history. That last hope is a naive one, but I hold it all the same.
When the divine gate comes down, won't it also release the evil gods, Sithir, and the ones from the deep? It is there to protect us in a way.
It is a valid point. They were free of the gate before as well.
Paul will interrupt and add to that and say, and what happens to the armies that you've collected? The undead, they cannot benefit from this shard of divinity. What will they do? Will they, and Paul will look to Vesper and say, will they join the armies of what lies underneath? Will they go home? And Paul just kind of looks puzzled.
Perhaps some of them. This is a question that is hard to answer, for it has never come to pass. Their entire purpose and will is to bring down the gate for generations. Once the ethos is freed, many of their purposes will be fulfilled. How many will be left after that conflict is done? How many will be left to worry about? Concern brings reason, though. I'm sure not all will fade from undeath quietly. The Deep Lords and the Orcox and the Descendants are well aware of this price, and so is the will. It is worth the possibility of the outcome.
And Demiri Voss himself, will he share in the fate of those who follow him?
He is valid. I cannot say for sure, but this is my belief that he means what he says. That when it all is said and done, that he will relieve and abdicate his ethos plate and blade, and he will leave this place. Though time changes a man. You have much to think about.
I also had a few other questions that haven't been answered yet. I wonder if we have time for that?
Quickly, yes. There are things I must address now that,
one, I understand that Demiri Voss is one of the Ascendants from the beginning of this conflict.
One of the originals, yes.
How many are there? Or were there?
Originally, there were dozens. He's the only one left. the ethos weapons and arms and armor, some were shattered in the conflict with Merfella and Velosol. With their lives, some survived. Those who lived were killed afterwards. It was a strifeful time. The descendants are those who the children and their children and their children of some of the original descendants. They are what's left. Demiri is the only true remaining ascendant.
So is he who Chevelle Serana was referring to when she mentioned the God King?
Refresh my memory of this. What did she say of the God King?
She mentioned something about the descendants of the God King. But I'm guessing now that was one of the other ascendants that you mentioned?
Correct. Well, you might claim Demiri is a king and could be perhaps considered a god, and he is somewhat worshipped here. He was not the original ascended God King. That was Galvadin Ralakir the first. He who slayed Merfella, he who wounded Velosol. He and the rest of the ascendants were felled, and the gods left. Incarnate, where the descendants reside.
And I guess one last question I have is about the city where we first met. The city on our side. I noticed the murals there are very much like the ones in this embassy. Your people had some influence there?
That was an Umbok city long ago. And when the gods pulled your holy city through, from the first world into the second, it brought with them some of the land, the plateau, and deep enough to get some of the city. That was a city of my people long ago, a city of the first world.
So it was built on this side?
Correct.
Did any of your people come with it?
None that lived.
Well, that clears up one of my questions then. I was wondering if that was in fact a city built by your people, how you could have brought enough over here without the storm wardens swooping in.
If there are no more questions, have you made your choice? We can speak more in the morning. Would you like the dungeon or to exit? I would recommend again the dungeon, but I will let you make your own choice. And as you guys are thinking, and even he gives you a moment to kind of turn to yourselves and speak freely, he begins packing up a satchel into one of his bags. Going to give you guys a moment to think if you need it.
Sure. Looking at Ellery.
So while maybe if we huddle to kind of have this moment to think, Ball's just going to flat out just speak up and say, I think I've gotten everything I want out of here. I don't understand how we can... And you can see like Ball's kind of conflicted and he's just like, you know, that if you want something done for a good cause, as we believed Bron to want, this is not the way you do it. Raising undead, dragons, murder of innocents. That is what Bron says they want to do.
That is what the will wants to do. It's one faction among others.
And Bron will stand to the side and let it happen.
There are still factions that we have not spoken with yet. And perhaps they might offer another perspective or another path that we can encourage them to go down. Or another...
I don't want to believe that the people on our side, that the gods are going to be that intransigent. I'm sure there's a way to convince our people, if they really are good people, they have to be willing to listen to some form of reason.
I agree, but I hate to interrupt the conversation. Perhaps we should pick this up once we are slightly more secluded. Where do we want to stay? No matter where we choose, I do have something that can keep us safe, looking at Ellery. So I'm fine either way.
I don't think I can make this choice for the whole group.
Do you think you can face the dungeons? With us there? No manacles, no shackles.
With you there, I think I can try. I don't want to let my fear get in the way.
Everyone good with dungeons then, since it's safer?
Yeah.
You see Ball's kind of checked out. He's taking a step back.
Fair enough. All right, I'll turn to Braun, and we're staying here.
All right. And he finishes packing up his stuff. This way. And he leads you down the hallway, down the central corridor before entering sort of a central room, before leading you down a staircase to the left. You go around the spiral staircase, what feels like maybe a floor or two before you get down to another tunnel. Leads you a short while, maybe 30, 40 feet, before it enters into another room. This room is gated. There's a Umbach guard sitting outside. Braun explains in a language you can't understand. The door is unlocked. They bring you in, and then there's a lift. You go down the lift, it clicks, goes down, guessing maybe 5, 8 stories, it's hard to tell, into the pitch black, and eventually lands. Or walks out into another room. There are other areas deeper than this, but these cells will do, as he gestures to some of the cells around. The gate is opened by 2 Umbach guards that are down here, as he gestures for you to enter.
How big are the cells?
These are larger cells, so they're maybe like 20 feet by 10 feet or so. There's a few of them. So this is kind of like low level. Someone gets drunk, we put them in here.
And what's the verdict? Do these cell doors stay unlocked?
The doors will have to be locked. You will not be manacled inside.
As Ezekiel's elected bitchiness, I have to say he's probably not happy about this either.
Yeah, I have this image of if Ezekiel was here, it'd be like Ball kind of fuming next to Ezekiel. Because Ezekiel would have the most sympathy too. What Ball's saying.
Yeah, I'm sure Ezekiel's got a lot of opinions,
just
but
furious.
Boy howdy, yeah. He's not here to voice them, so...
I think I just grab Ball's hand.
His finger.
It's hot to the touch. Not burning, but like hotter than usual.
And I think I'm squeezing pretty hard, but for Ellery, especially compared to Ball, that is not very much.
If you guys move into the cell, he puts you guys all in one, which is kind of a tight fit because of Ball, but it's manageable. There's a few like rolled up cots on the floor, a few benches as well. There will be a stool sit down for a consumption. He watches the doors be locked as the Umbach step back towards the lift. He gets on the lift and the lift lifts up. Once he leaves, there's only a faint light of 2 where torches would be, but it's not live fire. It's like glowing dim stones, and it's very dim in here. You presume that the Umbach have pretty substantial dark vision and aren't bothered substantially by it, especially living in this place for so long. But for you, it is very dark. The lift lifts up, and there is, as far as you can see, no other way out. And there is no other secondary lift. You would have to descend before you would able to leave.
And there's nobody else in any of these cells on this level that we can see?
No, not in this level. And there are just 2 Umbach who stand. Looks like they have 2 seats as well, if they need it, but they stand and kind of watch you silently, about 15 feet away from where your cell is.
Can they see inside the entire cell?
Probably. They're not that far away. You don't know exactly their dark vision, but probably. It is open bars. I see what you're asking. It is open bars all the way around, besides one wall.
I could prop Ball and Ezekiel up. We could probably get a little blind spot.
I'm just wondering if they can maybe see me cast a magic spell or 2. So
You could attempt to hide it behind Paul, but it would be possible for them to see. There's no wall in between you and them.
Okay. Do we want to try that? I was thinking maybe trying to cast silence between us and them so that we could have a more private conversation. I guess I'll just whisper that in character. I can create a zone of silence over there. I don't know if they'll appreciate the magic, but just so that they aren't listening, just in case they can speak our language.
I like the idea of having privacy, but having personally been stabbed for casting calm emotions once, or grabbed for trying to cast calm emotions once, I'm not sure they're going to be happy with any spell casting if they're not sure what we're doing. Maybe we just talk quietly.
Well, I guess, yeah, unless we're going to be casting spells, then it's just go to the corner, I suppose.
Okay. And presuming you guys move to the corner, you're trying to speak softly, I presume. Okay. I'll make you roll for anything. I might roll for them, though.
Okay. So, what are we all thinking?
I think it might be a good idea to try and find out what the other factions want. Who else do we still have to talk to?
I think Ellery is just kind of staring out at nothing right now.
Oh, good, because you take better notes than me. There are the architects and the Arcox and possibly some of the Harlan.
I don't... From what we know about the Harlan, I don't think they're going to agree.
No, I think they're pretty tied up with the will. There's also the old witch.
Well, we can talk to her easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the architects might be more open to some sort of compromise.
And Braun mentioned the Arcox as a possible help of some sort.
And just to clarify, we saw like this undead army of skeletons and the like earlier? Or am I just feeling...
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You guys saw skeletons, wights, undead cavalry mounted upon by vampiric-looking individuals.
Okay, so then, when you guys are talking to the architects, Ball again kind of hot will kind of interrupt and say, and while we're talking to the architects, perhaps the skeletons will be able to talk to the villagers or the civilians of Nymonet while we rest in this dungeon.
Braun said we had more time. But there are other pieces that still have to fall into place. He doesn't know the time limit, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
When it happens, it will be too late. Will it not?
So what do you want to do, Ball?
Maybe not sit on my hands.
Want to try and fight your way out of the Shadowfell? Start slinging holy spells around when we can barely reach our divinity down here?
Well, perhaps we're more useful in Nymonet than we are here. They don't seem to want to talk with us. They want to talk at us. They have already told us they have tried diplomatic approaches. Those skeletons don't look like they are looking for diplomacy.
That may be the case, Ball, but the more information that we have, the better. We already know, just by seeing, what we might have to fight against if we can't find some sort of agreement. And we can tell a lot of other people about that as well. About that alone. So, it may feel like we're sitting on our hands here, but we're gathering as much as we can, so that we'll be better equipped in the future.
I just see Ball do a long exhale, maybe with a kind of a faint smoke coming out.
Ball, we're the representatives of Ayin, and she listens to the fallen and the lost and the people no one else listens to, and isn't that what we're doing right now? These people are more fallen than anyone else has ever been. I feel like I have a duty to try and at least understand and listen.
All I've seen is a lot of unfallen, undead, and those that wish to use the undead
on those that have not turned their backs to the gods.
I wonder, was Aine there? Or were her representatives there when diplomacy fell before? When it failed? Was she listening then?
Don't think that's a question that we can answer right now, but it's certainly something that we can look into. Because if she wasn't, that might explain a few things. If she was, well, then that raises further questions.
I wonder why the gods, why their celestials and their priests, their representatives, have not done what we're trying to do.
Redeemed Olivia said that this was corrupt. That basically written off everything that they say because of who they are. I can't speak for the Celestials and I can't speak for the gods, obviously, but for the other priests, it's simple discrimination. It's prejudice that we all tend to carry. Everyone likes us versus them. It's easier that way. If you see things black and white, it's easier that way. Not as murky, not as difficult or painful. Whatever we choose, we're going to regret it on some level. Not everyone's going to be entirely happy with whatever the solution to this is. But we can try and make as many people as content with it as possible.
My question is, obviously, their plans all start at the top with the will, but I want to know how deep it runs. I would like to know, if the normal everyday people here want this as well, or if they just want to be able to live in the sunlight again, and everything else that they're missing out on.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get the perspective of the normal everyday people here.
I kind of agree with you. I don't think we are either, and I find it quite a little bit of a shame, but they might be doing that on purpose, making sure we can't.
I'm sure they don't want us changing people's minds, making them think there's a way outside of the will's plans. The more alliance they can muster up from their people, keep them from questioning.
There's a scratching sound as you look behind you and you see a match being drawn across something. You see the Umbaku now sit down in their chairs and are sharing a pipe.
I believe we can help. I believe that we can do some sort of good here.
I believe that too.
I believe that I want to go home.
I think we're all ready for that. But we can't until we rest. Unless they're able to send us home.
Guys, I think I figured it out. And Nellie presents to you some notes that she's been working on. Kind of halfway listening to the conversation, as she always does, while she's also halfway reading or working on something. And I'm going to add it into y'all's inventory. She already had it, but she's not here, so you guys are going to have to deal with it. Oh shit, no, God. Gods.
You're going to read the whole thing in her voice, right?
No, I'm not doing that. But I will add it to y'all's. It'll be under equipment and books and lore. And it should be updated now for you guys to read.
Yes, indeed.
And then just general inquiry as far as the session goes. Do you want to just continue for a little bit without a break instead of breaking and then, coming back for however long? Well, how about this? Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break? That way you guys can read and go to the bathroom and whatever, and we'll come back in 10 minutes.
Campaign Shatter, Operation Hammer and Nail. Officer Farrak, you will lead a team to Nymanet and New Nor with multiple prioritized objectives, which will follow. In this dossier, you will find numerous resources in the form of information and maps. Objective 1. Retrieve the Arcanitech schematic. Your skills will be best suited for initial deployment and eventual extraction. This is your primary objective. Retrieve the Arcanitech schematic from Severa's Scriptorium in Nymanet to be returned to the Arcox recess in Karnath. See that it specifically reaches the hands of Grand Architect Inaris Soltarian. Objective 2. Concealment of Dusk Coalition movements. The Eldritch Hands, Yavatha, and Drend have been instructed to destroy any references to Dusk Coalition movements in attachments while in the scriptorium. This includes leaving no sign of symbol or body behind. Reinforce to them that while this objective is important, it is secondary to the primary objective of retrieving the Arcanitech schematic. Objective 3. Develop enveloping, and this is where the paper is torn. Dossier resources includes the maps of Umbok, the ancient city, teleportation rooms for the Umbok city, maps of the viaduct, maps of Nymanet, and notes on Severa Sage policies. Note 1. Problematic Mauve Glass Queen Arena Iltherix below could threaten deployment. Initial reports indicate sizable force below. Recommend ablation of threats access to site, accordance, or if all else fails, annihilation.
Okay. So coming back from your break, Melly had just brought out the dossier, which she had transcribed and had been working on that. You guys have taken a brief read through to kind of see its contents. As we see the last kind of words and conversation and get an idea of where you guys want to go from here before we fade out.
As soon as I see what it is that she's been working on, I just kind of gently pry it from her hands and stuff it into the bag of holding. Because I feel like that's something we don't want to get caught holding or noticed holding. And then if I am sitting, so I would not be sitting with my back towards the guards. So I think because I'm rustling papers around anyway, I'm going to grab something to write with and just on the ground in between us on this piece of paper, write, play along, and then put it away with the other pieces of paper.
Play along? What does this mean, Ellery? Are you deceiving? I couldn't resist. Please continue.
And I say, look, we've learned some things here that we didn't know before about the actions of the ones we've been serving. What if they were wrong? What if the people here have the right idea of it?
I mean, they have been unfairly punished, harsher than it needs to be, with no mercy and no discrimination.
Including for people who weren't even involved in the beginning. I mean, maybe we're the assholes here. Much as I hate to admit that possibility.
I think at this point, Ezekiel goes on a short diatribe and sums up, eventually says that we should probably think on it and make our decision after a rest.
I vehemently disagree. But for some reason, I will agree. That's the best I got, and I'll never do it again.
I like it. And he does also say, but a good question is, what do we do from here? Are we going to try to get out as soon as we can? Are we going to stay here and see what happens? We're going to try to talk to some more people? Or do we sleep on that too?
More people, but maybe we should just sleep on it all and talk when we've got clear heads in the morning.
Maybe we need to see what opportunities we have in the morning. If we can talk to more people. Look, you all know that I've never been great at understanding the wrong and the right of things the way that other people see it. So I don't know what to do besides just get more perspectives on what's possible.
I want to stay. I want to talk to people, but if the group decides otherwise, I'm not going to throw a fit about it.
Well, I have to get a rest up anyway, either way, so talk about it in the morning.
Sure, Ezekiel.
Bastard.
Oh, sorry, was that not Ezekiel?
Whoever it was Ezekiel and Melly speaking in concert, possessed by demon ghost.
Everybody roll initiative.
Everybody roll initiative. Okay, so you guys with half of the party missing, you guys settle in a bit to think on it and perhaps settle in for a rest in a cell beneath an embassy on the outskirts of a city of undead in Fel'Nor.
I was hoping before we pick up, since we're settling down to rest, and this is a very uncomfortable place for Ellery. I think when the current discussion subsides, she's kind of been sticking next to Ball through this. So I look up at him and I say, "Hey, Ball, can you do something for me? It's maybe a little weird. Can you do that thing where you check to see if somebody's sick?"
Ball kind of looks at you a little puzzled. Are you okay?
I mean, no.
Do you feel ill? And, Ball's not really going to clue in. Ball's going to just ask if you feel ill, and when you're kind of looking, when you're kind of giving that face, he'll try to detect poison and disease on you.
Are you using, I guess you're using your stone?
Yeah, Ball will kind of reach into his pouch and take out the onyx gem of the War Mage and use that as his focus. And maybe just kind of like one hand on Ellery's forehead and the other hand holding onto the gem as he kind of like hovers it over her body.
Okay. Doing so, you sense no poison, no disease.
And while Ball's hand is still on my forehead, which the mental image of that, Ball's enormous hand.
Yeah, it's not on your forehead. It's just like, it's a skull cap, but it's Ball's hand.
I think I just reach up and place my hand over the top of his. Thank you.
You seem okay to me.
I didn't really... I mean, there's a lot wrong here, but I didn't really think that I was sick. It just always makes me feel better when you do that.
I think hopefully we won't be in these foreign lands for too long. Behind bars. It should be easier to feel more like ourselves when we are closer to home.
Home. Yeah.
All right. And with that, you guys settle in for a rest, at least until the rest of the party decides to speak up. Ball, when you settle in to sleep, you guys eventually have some trouble finding rest. There's some thin cloth cots, but nothing substantial, like laying on a bath towel. But eventually you guys find rest, and well, as you find it, you find yourself sitting, again, on a wooden stump. In front of you is a wooden table, near the middle of the forest, bright, vibrant colors, as if looking at it through a kaleidoscope. You hear birds chirping and singing harmonic music, and stepping out from the trees, as he did before, you see a man, tall, lanky, wearing yellow hat, shirt, pants, boots. He walks forward and pulls out a wooden chair that sits across from you from the small kitchen table. He sits crossing his leg, and on his shoulder is that monkey, small. The man, the human face, smiles widely, gleaming white teeth, eyes slit and golden like cat eyes. You notice the monkey has them as well. The sound comes from the chimp on the shoulder, small. Well, have you given it any more thought? What we might be able to do? You could do so much more. Do you know why I come to you, Ball? Why you're sought out?
Ball shakes his head.
You're a lot like that gem you have. And he gestures towards your hand, and as you turn it over, that gem of the War Mage is in there. You can channel things beyond what most are capable of. And so, the entities in Celestia and from elsewhere seek that. I could offer you things for small favors. Favors I assure you would not harm anyone that you're familiar with. You already hold a weapon from here. I could make it work a little better. And again, the sound is coming from the chimp, but it's as if it's the man who's locking eyes with you. What do you think? Maybe a test drive?
How would you want to help me?
As I said, in return for a small, itsy-bitsy little favor. Something you could do for me. In exchange, I'll help you accomplish what you seek. Wouldn't that be nice?
And how do you know what it is I seek?
Well, I don't. But I could guess.
What kind of... And you see Ball, starts kind of thinking, is about to ask, what kind of favors? And then kind of stops himself and says, why am I supposed to trust you? You visit me in my dreams.
It's the only time we get to speak.
I've never met you, but only in my dreams.
Well, you've met me twice already, Ball. That's more than what most people do on your side. I could offer you so much. I understand your trepidation, unwanted as it is. I wish you no ill will. That would not benefit me. It's a fine weapon you have. It could be a little longer, a little sharper. I could help with that. Tell me, Ball, are you more of a ale man, wine, perhaps you fancy sangria? What is your preference?
When I'm in this kind of dream, does Ball feel, is there any kind of mood that he leans toward, or is it just kind of whatever mood he's in?
You're in control of your emotions and your state. I mean, clearly the place around you is painted in vibrant colors, but your mood is your own. But when you do look around you, the man is clear, the table, and some of the trees immediately around you, but everything else almost smears blurry. Well, I'm more of a mead man myself. And he holds his hand out, and vines grow up the table and up the leg of the table and along it towards him, where flowers sprout. And in them, a honey golden liquid forms, collected by the flower petals, vibrant yellows and blues and pinks and violets. And he picks one of them and slurps it up before tossing the flower that kind of floats gently away on the wind.
Does I guess Ball's not that dumb that he does, he realizes this is, does Ball realize this is kind of Fey visitor, so to speak? Especially when he talks about that he's already got a weapon from there.
Yeah, I think you understand that much. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Does Ball still have this the gem in his hand? That onyx gem?
Mm-hmm.
So Ball's going to kind of grip the onyx gem, and he's going to, on himself, try to cast protection from evil and good.
Oh, Ball. Nothing at first happens, and a shimmering light forms across you, though different than what you're used to. I assure you have nothing to fear from me.
I don't know who or what you are. Don't.
And then Ball kind of pauses and he says,
I'm beginning to reconsider how quickly I trust people.
What if I were able to promise you that I would do nothing to harm you or your friends or anyone else you're familiar with? You really only need just one little favor.
And what are these favors you ask?
Someone has something here. One of the courts. Something that's mine. Something they shouldn't have, Ball. I want it back. But you don't have to decide now. You don't have to run off. I know you're busy on your big adventure. Do you have the time? Perhaps you could lend me assistance. In the meantime, I could offer mine. He kind of waves his hand across the table and the glaive appears, sitting on it. Wouldn't it be nice if this were just better? So rudimentary. It's a fine blade, yes, but not excellent. I could make it excellent for you, Ball.
And if I don't wish to help you? Then what?
Why don't you think about it? Ball, it's me, it's your friend. I haven't harmed you once. I come to you in your dreams. I paint pretty pictures for you. I offer you no ill will. I promise you such. My word is my bond, Ball. I wouldn't break it. I couldn't break it. There's a third piece. He waves his hand across the table and the mask appears. There's the last piece. A pretty one indeed. Won't you want it, Ball? Think of the good you could do on your side. Those pesky mean, whatever they are, you could take care of them. So little the cost, Ball. Maybe you don't want a weapon. Maybe you want to know of your family or where you came from. I could find out, I'm sure.
And what do you know of them?
Well, rumors, Paul. You know I love rumors. Rumor has it you take me up on this deal. And I sharpen your weapon and I find out what happened.
Alright, Ball just kind of takes a deep breath.
I can see it in your eyes, Ball. You're going to wake up soon. Let's hurry this along. And he pulls out a goblet, a chalice. And it's gold, but it's not bedazzled with gems or jewels. It's pretty simple, but gold. Goblet, he places it on the center of the table. And he pulls up a bottle of wine and he pours it about halfway. And then he pulls out a small blade. It's at the side, a small letter opener. I help you, and you help me. It's easy, Ball. He takes the knife, the letter opener, small knife, blade, small cut, lets it drip down his hand, the man's hand, into the goblet of wine. He kisses and licks his hand and takes the knife with a little bit of blood still in it and kind of stirs it in, taps the rim, and places the knife beside you. I know where you're from, Ball. Know who your ancestors were. I know who comes. Oh, but maybe you're not interested in that. And he brushes the hand away and the glaive vanishes and the mask vanishes and the flowers filled with cider kind of wither and fade away. I can tell you're of strong opinions. So stalwart. And he wipes his hand and the bottle fades. So strong. It's a shame. You're going to wake up soon, Ball. Best be on with it. He uncrosses his legs and he stands up and kind of leans over the table, which He's about at your height when you're sitting down, but he still leans over all the same, and something about staring into his golden, cat-like eyes makes everything else blur around him as if all you can focus on is him. And he meets your gaze, and he looks down at the cup and at the knife. What do you do?
Ball's going to pick up the knife, and kind of the same way that this man did, and just kind of hold the knife above the cup, and then point the knife towards the man and say, "You haven't earned my trust yet." And then he's going to drop the knife into the cup and kind of push push his chair away from the table and kind of start to get up.
Yeah. And as you point it towards him and say that, his eyes narrow, and as you drop the knife into the goblet, it hits the bottom, and as soon as it does, everything goes black. And you wake up in the moldy and musky dungeon in Fel'Nor. And we'll pick up next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Back to the Story. For notifications when an episode goes live, you can find us on Stitcher, Google Play, Player FM, or TuneIn. Download the app and subscribe or favorite us there. We also have a YouTube channel called Back to the Story, an actual play podcast. If you'd like to contact us, you can tweet us at back2_the_story. If you can't fit it into 280 characters, you can email us at thebonfirefables@gmail.com. And if you'd like further information about the campaign, the player characters, or behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, follow us on either Twitter or our Tumblr website. Lastly, if you'd like to support the show, feel free to buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/backtothestory.